Well, this question keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up more and more now, because we have another, I think it could be as many as another 12 or 13,000 new or relatively new subscribers, so they don't know a lot about some of the things that we've already stated. And let's face it, we must have close on 4,000 videos now, so it's possible that they just haven't found the right video which answers their question. Now, we've done most of the really popular questions about coming to live in the Philippines. We've already done, but one of the things that just seems to be a subject that cannot be discussed enough is the whole idea of finding a wife or a partner, because it's not just about men finding women. It's not just about that at all now. For one thing, one of the different things about our channel is that we actually have a huge following of Filipinos. Now, the Filipinos take various forms. A lot of the Filipinos that we have and Filipinas that we have as subscribers are OFWs, and they're overseas Filipino workers, and they're out there in different places. All of the Arab Emirates are usually well represented, much more so than possibly the Western world. So what's the question? The question is, can you find me a Filipina wife? Can you find me a foreigner husband? Right. The answer is we can, but only indirectly. And I've said this in other videos. I've said it in responses to comments that have been made where people have asked us, can you help me find someone? Well, let me go through what I think you should possibly at least try to see if you can answer this challenge of finding. It's not just a question of finding a partner. You can find a partner easily. Let's face it, if you want to get on a plane and come out to the Philippines, you could be married almost in weeks to a really lovely woman. Now, the question then would be, is it the right lovely woman for you? Are you the right foreigner for her? So, assuming that you're coming from another country, that makes you a foreigner, makes you an expat. Describe yourself as you will, but you are not native to this country. You're not a Filipino. Now, it's a big secret, but which you may not be aware of, but I'm not Filipino. Okay, there, the secret's out. So, I know a bit about how you can find a Filipina who will suit you. Now, I'm going to make a recommendation that I've made many times before, which I think is the best book I have ever read on relationships. This is by a woman called Barbara DeAngelis. Barbara DeAngelis. Okay? And the title of the book is Are You the One for Me? Now, DeAngelis is a good and interesting writer, and she writes on with a background of experience as a counsellor, as a marriage counsellor, as just a general counsellor for people who are going through or have left behind a broken relationship. Now, because of listening to so many people tell their stories, what has emerged over time, what has unfolded in front of our eyes, is that there are actually few untold, unheard of, new scenarios between people getting together, staying together, or not. Right? So, she put it together in a very, very easily understood way as to what you need to look at and the different relationships. And so I'm not going to talk wholly about this lady's book, but I am going to recommend it because it was a book that I read several times. It was a book that I bought but never managed to hold on to, because when people were talking to me about being in trouble with their relationship, or couldn't find the right person, or didn't know how to look, or didn't know how to judge, I would say, well, I have this copy of this book, but I'd like it back. And knowing full well that I was never going to get it back, I would hand the book over, and the story is that I don't have a copy of it right now. But DeAngelis does talk about every single kind of relationship, from long distance to what she calls winter and spring. In other words, a very young partner married to an old partner, and how that can work and what the problems are. And she's pretty well got it right down. She even takes this lady as an example. She takes this lady through the breakup of someone that she said that she loved very much. And what she did was, she said, all right, let's call this person Maggie. She said, all right, Maggie, why don't we play the movie of your life? So sit down and imagine the movie playing up there on the wall, and tell us what happened when you met Sydney, and how it all unfolded up until bringing you here to receive some counseling from me. And as Maggie progressed through, she said, well, I met Sydney at a party, and even across the room, I really, really liked him. There was something about him that was magnetic to me, and so on. The love at first sight, or love at first attraction, or attraction at first sight. And so, okay, so DeAngelis says, what happened then? Well, one of the things that I didn't quite understand at that time was that he appeared to be with a very attractive lady. So I wondered what that was about, and I was disappointed at the beginning, because I was hoping that he'd come over and talk to me. So DeAngelis said, okay, was this a warning sign that in retrospect you feel that you should have paid attention to? And if it was, I want you to tell me the warning signs as they come up. So without doing an agonizing replay of this, what happened was that the man was with another woman, but he explained to our friend, our hero in the story, that yes, but she's not my girlfriend. She's my ex-girlfriend, but she's going through a hard time, and we stayed very good friends, and I agreed to come to this party because she didn't want to come on her own, but we're separate. So our friend was very pleased about this, because she had her eyes on this guy. So Sydney was a catch. Handsome, apparently successful, all stuff like that. And she gave her phone number to the guy, and off he went with this friend that he had agreed to accompany, because, well, it's the right thing to do, isn't it? So there's the first warning sign. Second warning sign was that she agreed to, she went along and she had a first date, and that went very well. She got on terrifically with this guy. She really loved him. And then the first time that they went and they slept together, she went to his place, and she really didn't want anything to go wrong. But when she went into his bedroom, there was a photograph of this same attractive lady that he had been at the party with. And he said, it's all right, it's just like, I just believe that you shouldn't become enemies with someone. And he gave a very good explanation of why this woman's photo should be there. So she ignored that sign. Well, the signs came and she ignored them, and another sign, and oh, and there's another sign, and oh, there's another one, and then there's another one, oh, and there's another one. And then finally, she was supposed to spend her birthday with him, and he called up and he said, listen, I can't be there for your birthday. I'm really sorry, darling. I just can't do it. And she said, why? She said, well, an emergency has come up, you know. So the emergency, it seemed, was that this friend, this ex, was very depressed, and she threatened to kill herself, and he just had to go around and comfort her at her place. So that was the real start of the crunch. Later, of course, he eventually found that he was thinking more about the other woman than he was about our hero. So it ended. Well, the first thing that Maggie said when she talked to our author, DeAngelis, she said, it just came out of the blue. I was just so shocked. It was a surprise. That's when Miss DeAngelis said, why don't we sit down and play the movie of your life with this man from the very beginning to here, and any time that you see what in retrospect was a sign of it wasn't going so well, that you should have paid attention to, you tell me. And so they did what I've just described. Now, very often we're receiving the messages all the time that this is not going to end well. My mother always used to say, it'll end in tears. I'm telling you, it will end in tears. So, unless you are willing for it to end in tears, you have to be careful. When it comes to a Filipina, you have to be careful again. Now, if you find, especially if your Filipina has children or a child, right, you have to make sure that she was never married. And it's easiest to do it at front, when she is just a beautiful face and a sweet person. That's when it's the easiest to find out if she's married. Now, it's called a cinema, Beth?
Yeah.
What is it called when you find out a sinoma?
Yeah.
Sinoma. You can find out by going to a government office. Which government office would that be?
Philippine Statistic Office, PSA.
Certificate office?
Philippine Statistic Office.
Statistic?
Yeah, office.
Office. So, you need to find out the right office. The statistic office, apparently. And you have a full name, and you give that full name, and you find out there and then, if officially she has never been married. Now, why would you do this? Why would it matter? Because they don't have divorce in the Philippines is why. Okay? So, unless you want to get embroiled in a really serious consequence position, you will probably be best advised to walk away if the person that you're thinking of getting in touch with and getting connected to is married. Because there are laws against living with married women or married partners, and you can spend time in jail. Not a very good idea in the Philippines especially. Okay? So, go to the Senoma, find out if she is married, and then decide whether you're going to proceed. It's incredibly expensive to get an annulment, and it takes a long time. So unless you have a ton of cash, yes, bless you, dear. Unless you have a ton of cash and a lot of time to spend, and the willingness to make this treasure of a woman your own, think again. Now, assuming that she is not married and you have the certificate to prove it, now you can proceed ahead. So now there are all of the warning signs which you must actually pay attention to. And the warning signs that you must pay attention to have an S with two lines going through them. The dollar. They are the dollar signs. Now, if you haven't done your homework and found out the background of this lady, you may find that big demands are being made for money. And if they're being made for money too early, this is a warning sign for you to get out of there. It's tough, but you need to get out of there. Now, if you're staying on the basis of, well, I just love the look of this woman, now don't worry, because you can go down the local supermarket and watch people passing through, right? Lovely ladies are not on the shelf at the supermarket, okay? I didn't mean for that to be the interpretation. But you can go to an area where people are passing in and out. Any store, any mall, and in the Philippines, if you are attracted by the Philippine beauty, it will be a beauty parade from the moment that you get there to the moment that you leave. So finding a lovely woman is not a problem. So find one who actually makes sense for you. And in making sense, make sure that you stand apart from yourself when trying to judge the honesty, integrity, and values of this lady that you are interested in. Okay? Now, if you catch her in a lie, you really have to make sure that you have settled in your mind that it was the only lie, and that there is a reason for why she would have said that. Okay? Now, only you can say whether this is something that you can move on from. For a lot of others, they'll say, well, just the first lie that I caught there, but then more were revealed. And if more were revealed, don't wait for a lot to be revealed. Get out of there. Okay? Now, how would you find someone who had similar ethics and characteristics as yourself? If you're a staunch Roman Catholic, go to a Catholic church. Go to a Catholic anything. Go to a Catholic get-together. Go to find men friends that you can make who are going to different get-togethers, and go and mix. Go to a church. Go in there and talk to people. Talk to women who have taken the time to go to a service, and ask them, are you always at this service, or do you vary? Ask them. It's a replay of the old thing, do you come here often? Okay, but when you're talking about a church, then asking that question really makes sense. Why? Is it necessary that someone be religious before you can love them? No, it's not. But if they have their feet firmly planted on a path to some kind of salvation, to some kind of enlightenment, to some kind of spiritual growth, especially if you are on a similar kind of thing, then you will have found a kindred spirit who may well make you very, very happy. Now, I still say, even though I get knocked and criticized for this, but I still say that even despite the fact that there are obviously millions of honest, hard-working, ethical, truthful, loyal Filipinas in Manila, all kinds of other, I don't know, Olongapo, and Angeles, the big cities are all over there. They're all over, and they all have the same kind of pressure for making a living, for helping to support your family, all of which a good lady will do. But for me, I didn't have endless years to spend looking for the right one. And when I went online, when I received a text from my now wife, and exchanged a few texts with her and saw some pictures, and you know, I really had to look hard at whether this was going to be the right thing. And that's what you have to do. You have to make sure. And what will lead you on the way will be, what demands does she make of you? Now, the demands that she makes on you will tell you a lot about her. What does she expect of you? Does she expect you to be an ATM machine? Not so good. Get out of there. Does she expect that you will be rich? Well, if you're not rich, you'll soon be walking out there anyway. You'll get the bum's rush. If it is that you are a non-believer, maybe you're an atheist, I don't know, and she is a staunch Christian, is that going to work? Well, will it work? Can you stand going to church and listening to devout believers profess their love of the Lord, their Lord, not yours? Only you can decide, but you need to look at this and look at it smartly. Okay, so all of the other things of what my recommended author, Barbara DeAngelis, says, she said that you should like the way that your future partner does the following. You should like how she looks. You should like how she looks with or without clothes. You should like, and obviously vice versa, you should like how she walks, runs, moves. You should like, if she sings, and singing is important, that you should like that. You should like how she presents herself in her clothes. You should like what she feels like, what she'd like to touch. What does it feel like when she touches you? You should like how she smells and tastes when you kiss her. Does she taste right? All of these things. And they've all been listed in that book, actually, much better than I could list them. So, back to that book, I think that would be a good one for you to get if you're really interested. And what, for $7 or $8, you will have a mine of information from someone who has interviewed literally hundreds, possibly thousands of people about relationships. So, I wish you well. It's a never-ending issue that comes up. But right at the end of this, before I close, I have to tell you this. Beth and I are not in the business of connecting even the finest people. We're just not. We just don't have time to do that. Regretfully, if I happen to know a George who should be with Mary, who we also know, then fine. But so often, the women who contact and say, please, can you help me to find a man? We have to say no, it's not possible. Can we help a man hoping to meet a good woman? It's not possible. So, please don't ask us to do this, because writing those letters saying no, can't help you are terrible. But here's a tip. Why don't you put your request by way of making comments? Make comments which are intelligent and show your belief system and make these comments about videos that you have watched all the way through and have understood and appreciate. You don't have to write a letter, by the way. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be a few lines. But people they'll find you out by what you write.
Yeah, because Mr. Kibler find it through the meet in also in subscriber, right?
Stephen Keebler was a
Yeah.
subscriber, and he wrote to us and he said that he had found the love of his life.
Yeah, who also a
And
subscriber.
by doing what we've just been saying. What?
They just made in online in subscription. You know, they made in that comment section.
In comments, as I said.
Yeah.
So there's no point in writing to me and asking me to go and friend you on Facebook or take note of what your email is and email you back. It's not our mission. Much as we would love to help, it's not our mission. Okay? Sorry to say this, but it's just not. It's not what we do. What we do is we try to help the less fortunate. And these are people who are living in abject poverty most of the time. And they've got 4, 5, 6, 7 children. That's our mission. That's what we should be doing. It's what we do. So this is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Please like, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to anyone who you think might be interested in listening to how you can choose a good for you partner. Someone who is beautiful in your eyes. May not be you will not find the most beautiful woman in the world. You will not find the most handsome man in the world. You will find someone who is all of those things in your eyes when you build a love together. So, thanks for looking in.